Welcome to the Guilty Party.
Welcome to the Guilty Party podcast with your co-hosts, Micah Labrosse and Patrick Madsen. We are extremely excited to bring to you today's podcast. And without further ado, welcome to the Guilty Party. You're one of us now. Today we have some interesting topics that we are going to love to go over. But first and foremost, I want to thank everybody. And speaking for Micah here too, because we talk about this a lot. Thank you everybody for this love and support on episode 1. If you haven't listened to it, we've posted it up on all of our socials. You can check it out on YouTube and Anchor FM. And we are super stoked to start episode 2. So welcome. You're one of us now.
Hey, thanks for tuning in, guys. Again, like Pat said, we are super thankful and actually blown away of the response that we've gotten for this podcast. We appreciate the support, and we hope to do many, many more of these. So this is definitely a new thing for us, but we're excited. And so, again, welcome to the Guilty Party, and we're going to dive into episode number 2.
So some things have happened since episode 1 that a lot of you may or may not know, and that would be Micah and my departure from Random Hero. It was a band that we spent a lot of time in, myself 6 years, and Micah about one year, and so yeah, some things have happened since that episode, and we're just going to come out and say that this happens in the business. This is a normal thing, and all good things come to an end, and we love the guys in Random Hero. I'll give Micah a chance to say his piece, but I did want to say before anything that we left on the best terms that you could leave on, which is everybody loves each other when you leave a project. And for that part, I'm really excited about all of our futures and the guys that stay behind in Random Hero, their futures. So I'll give Micah the floor here.
Yeah, I mean, like Pat mentioned, this is nothing new in the business. This is actually the best outcome that can happen, when you are leaving a business venture or a band, especially one that, we were a close-knit family. And I'm really happy that we were able to part on good terms. I still consider those guys my brothers. I would do anything for them. But, like Pat mentioned, some things good do come to an end. And this is just one of those situations where it was, I think, necessary. And we don't know what's going to happen in the future. No one knows the next, few months, but, we're hopeful, we're praying, we're going to see where God leads us, and we'll see what happens.
It's a lot of people have the fear of the unexpected. I'm quite the opposite in that, even though I left behind something I invested 6 years of my heart and soul into, I've never been more excited for what I don't know right now, what the future holds. And I think if you embrace that mentality, I think great things come out of it, because now you have the world at your fingertips. Not that I didn't before, but it's just a new sense of perspective. So I'll leave it at that. And if Michael wants to say anything to close on that, we'll get to the topics.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm the kind of person that, when something like that happens, I've got a little bit of fear, just for a little bit. I think that's just the human in all of us. Some people are able to just right away, like, it doesn't matter, we're looking to the future. But, sometimes in my case, I'm looking to the future, right after the fresh wound or whatever it is. And I'm still looking back a little bit kind of, unsure, because you're used to being in a routine. You're used to the normalcy of it. But, I tried to make sure that I don't stay too long looking into, the past, just because you'll stay there, you'll get deep in the mud, and it's going to be harder and harder to move out of it. So, I'm hopeful for the future. I've never been scared of the future and change. It's always a little bit different, and you're never quite sure like how it's going to go. But I'm trusting God that He's got a plan in place, and that I'm moving forward. I'm not moving backward at all.
Absolutely, man. I truly believe that everything we do in this life was all by design. It was all predetermined anyway, because God knew. So I'll leave it at that. And yeah. And so, becoming great friends with Micah throughout his time in Random Hero, we have embarked on this podcast. So episode 2 here. And so I guess, we got plenty of topics to discuss. And so I guess we'll just get started. You ready?
Let's do it, man. So I think that, I know everyone seems to be kind of sick and tired of COVID-19 and this corona virus nonsense, but at the same time, it is still a prevalent and real thing in our lives. And for right now, it's going to be part of it, for the near future. We've got all the states reopening. Both Pat and I live in Texas, and I feel like that, our governor has kind of done the best job of reopening the states, but you've got a lot of pushback. You've got people who don't think that we should open yet because, it's too soon. It's going to start a second wave. And then you got others, that are business owners, employees, where they need to get back to it. They need to get back to work, and they need to provide for their families, and they are getting a little irritated and frankly pissed off that, someone's telling them that you can't do this, you can't do that, and they're not being provided any other answers. So, Pat, what do you think so far on the reopening of things?
I think it's great. I think the worst thing you could ever do to a human is cage it. And also the worst thing you can do to your immunities is stay indoor. Humans were built to be outside, and it's just in our DNA. You go outside and you soak up the vitamin D from the sun, and it's proving to, and now they're doing UV light remedies to treat COVID now. And so it's like this whole staying indoors thing. It's so unsustainable to a human person. Now, there's a lot of people that are couch potatoes that are embracing this, but the people that are used to their routine, going out and working, or the people that are outside people like me, you're never going to cage us. And so you're going to see rebellion. But yes, just today on my Facebook, I saw people that were like, oh my God, I hate Governor Abbott, who's the governor of Texas. Oh my God, I hate Governor Abbott. He's so dumb for allowing the state to reopen. It's all about the second
it's so
wave.
Easy
it's
to
like,
say
dude,
that though, because you're not the governor.
It's the dumb.
Exactly.
But
that's one thing that annoys the crap out of me. It's like it's super easy to point the finger at someone and say you're doing the wrong thing, but you're not in that situation. If that's the case, you have a better idea. What do you think we should do? And what happens when that doesn't work? You want everyone to point the finger at you?
So my favorite part about that, dude, you're spot on. My favorite part about that post was the first comment. So what do you think we should do? In his or her response, because I don't want to blast him or her, said, I think we should stay indoors. What is that going to do? What the hell is that going to help in life right now with anything? You got people that are broke, laid off, and now they can't even enjoy society without a civilian coming up to them and now barking orders to them. Now, this has become not only the craziest time, but it's become the most power-driven time. So somebody's like, I have solutions. Stay indoors. No, I'm going to go outside. And it's just like,
but the people that are pushing that guarantee that they're not having the same issues that someone who just lost their job, a month or two ago, that is like down to their last dollar to pay rent. They're not the ones complaining about in the comments like, oh, it's too soon to open up. They probably have a cushy job, or they've got, plenty of money in the bank that they're not worrying about anything. They're not in the same
100%.
They're not in the same shoes as someone who's struggling out there.
Yeah, and the worst person that they want to hear from is the essential workers. No one's debating those guys. They haven't had a day off. They had to go back to work, and then you're going to tell that person, hey, you need to stay indoors. Bro, they're out there feeding their family. I've been doing Instacart. I'm outside. There's people constantly screaming at me when I do deliveries and stuff. They're like, why are you not home? This is so unsafe. Everyone is given in to this
still
fear.
Order on the app.
And if it's not...
I don't want to hear complaints. You're still order on the app.
You sure can. It's the easiest click of a button. But people are just it's one thing after another, right? If it's not COVID, it's and COVID, gets abolished tomorrow, then it's, oh my God, the second wave. And then it's like, okay, well, the second wave, if that doesn't happen, what the hell is it? Now we got murder hornets. Okay, what the hell is it now? Oh, and now it's a fire-breathing rattlesnakes. Everyone's got a, dude, what the hell? What's it going to be? Everyone's just like, the one thing I've noticed about this in society, not my place, not where you live, just in literally nationwide from social media and talking to people, is that the real virus here is fear.
Yeah.
That's it.
Agreed with there.
That, I mean, dude, people have absolutely caved in. Businesses, now businesses like restaurants and hospitality, food services, they have to cater to CDC and WHO regulations. I get that. It's food and passing around, but the mask thing, bro, the mask thing pisses me off so much. I've seen Anthony Fauci have a 2017 video, or not, maybe it was even more recent than that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's sitting there telling you how masks aren't going to help a thing. And that mask, it's just literally peace of mind. Also, you can buy the best mask in the world and you're still not 100% safe, Yeah,
it helps prevent some of it, but it's not going to stop it altogether.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's become this political move. It's almost like the new MAGA hat, right? So if you wear wear a Make America Great hat that says literally Make America Great, and you're like, I'm going to kick your ass. Now it's like, in rephrasing back to episode 1, now it's like, oh, this guy's wearing a mask and I'm not wearing a mask. Now we have to call each other out, or one of them's going to call each other out because my idea is better than yours. I'm fearful and everybody's a threat to me, and this is the new way of life. I refuse to adopt that mentality. Like, absolutely. I think it's the most ignorant thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
And so yeah, that's how it's been for me. It's a long-winded answer there.
No, I still think that even with the states reopening and how crazy it's been with the quarantine and with COVID-19, I still think you still have to look at some of the positive things and how people have gone back to just being humans and being there for each other. One cool thing that I really thought, this I don't know if this is just to our state of Texas, but I know that it's been a big part, is when the quarantine hit and everyone was buying up all the hand sanitizer, and I think there were some people even buying it in bulk, from the places that hospitals and anyone in a business can order from. Who stepped up, which I was really surprised, and people might, hate them for it, but I say kudos, is the distilleries here in Texas. So if you,
that's true.
You don't know,
you told me about this.
Yeah. So a lot of times, a lot of these distilleries, again, all you're doing is making a distilled product. That's all hand sanitizer is. It's just a very high percentage of alcohol, along with some other chemicals that I don't know that you can look up, along with a chemical compound that makes it, like in a gel-like substance. So what these distilleries did, they knew that, this pandemic was encouraging people to buy up in stock for whatever oddball reason, all this hand sanitizer, and leaving people who actually needed it without it. And all these distilleries in Texas stepped up and they stopped production on, whatever they're making, whether it was, vodka, whiskey, whatever it is, and they started making hand sanitizer, which is crazy because you would think that, all these other companies would have plenty in stock and they were just running out. And so these distilleries...
Dude, I got something funny to say
Go for it.
About that.
Go for
so
it.
Like the hand sanitizer, I went to this restaurant here in town, and the hand sanitizer that they had at, shout out to 54th Street, I think was literally vodka. So they have a big thing of hand sanitizer, and I put it on, and I literally feel like I soaked my hands in vodka. So I looked at my wife, and I was like, does this smell like vodka to you? And she goes, oh my God, I think that's vodka. And so it made me think of what you told me about these distilleries stepping up and adding their alcohol, which is a huge component of the hand sanitizer. So just giving you more backing on what you're saying.
Yeah. So all these distilleries, they stepped up. They made so they stopped making their production of whatever it is that they specialize in, and they started making hand sanitizer. There's even a distillery in Cleburne, where my brother-in-law used to live, and the distillery there, they made a special type of hand sanitizer where they would actually add the gel-like substance in there, so it would be like Paracel, whatever you'd order from the store. But you had all these distilleries step up. They made large quantities, and they started having it available for like hospitals to buy. I think you could even buy some as an individual, and to me, it's like that's amazing. That's just the fact of people, like, they see a need and they're willing to step up and halt their business and and their way of life in order to help others. So I think that a lot of times that we look at the wrong side of a pandemic or whatever the disaster is, and we refuse to see the positive things. And I think that's where we need to get back into that mindset of.
Well, I think you hinted on something there. So I think a very popular thing that even has happened leagues before this pandemic is that people just simply focus on the negative. You'll see it's just like the news. They get no ratings for nothing but happy stories. No ratings whatsoever. But when they air the negative stories, it's like mass rating thing. So, but I mean, that's your media right there, just always throwing you negative stories. And then they go, okay, let's break up, let's cleanse the palate. And now let's show a kitten video and show that, rescue adoption rates are at an all-time high. And then they go, right, okay, this guy just killed this dude, today. And you'd never know about it. But our ratings suck. So we have to tell you.
Exactly. And I think that's, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm saying, and I'm not like being specific about that murder that happened in Georgia. I think that was god awful. Even though there's been some interesting evidence come out, I don't think anything really justifies what happened, in my opinion.
No, I don't think there is. Like, whether it was self-defense, if you see someone running, even if they were doing something, the fact that you had to get up, get out of whatever you're doing in the middle of your life, and go kill that person. There's just a lot of things that, one, don't add up, and two, it's just common sense and like respect for your fellow man. Like there's nothing that warranted that. He wasn't trying to kill your family. He wasn't trying in your house trying to break in or do anything like that. He's literally running down the road, and you're assuming a bunch of stuff. Forget race, because that's a separate conversation altogether that we could definitely get into. But the fact that a human being is running down the street and you don't know anything about him besides maybe hearsay of what you thought you knew, heard about a rumor about the neighborhood, and you have to go up and take care of it. That's just, man.
Well, there's a lot of interesting things about it, but I think the one thing that we can all collectively agree on is that is the media's favorite type of story to air. When they get their hands on that, it's like, oh my God, we have like gold right now. And then they blast it out, and then you see everyone doing their sub articles with their new evidence that's never proven. It's always new evidence.
And you notice it happens 2 weeks after. So it wasn't that big a deal to them until something sparked it up and it became relevant, which is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, and social media is a two-way street. So you have the good things that come out of it, which is like like the salon owner and going public and everyone outraged about that, and we saw some good things happen on that. We saw the Georgia murder, and those guys were sitting free for a while, and then social media caused an uproar, and then we see and we're going to tie this into Spotify. With some new developments, but now we see the censorship from platforms, and it's the demonetizing, it's the let's silence their platform, like Alex Jones on Twitter type stuff. And now we have a huge move in the podcast world, which is Joe Rogan switching to Spotify, which I think is an amazing thing because of the sure fact that you've seen, and this is to the listener, you've seen surely all of the censored information. I mean, somebody posts a video and it's like a doctor, and they're going, hey, we have something on this COVID thing. I don't agree with this. There's something wrong. Or all you see is a bunch of videos getting deleted or pulled down from YouTube. And it's because of the platform itself not agreeing with your agenda. And so now they get the power move of going, nope, I don't agree with that. Click buy. And it doesn't mean that they're right. And it doesn't mean that they're wrong in saying I don't agree with that, because everyone has freedom of choice. But the problem is that they're bringing down information. That is not what this country was founded upon. That is literally how China does their stuff. I mean, besides as far as killing people for putting out stuff, you can't speak against the government. But you give anybody an inch, they'll take a mile. And so we've just accepted, the Plandemic movie got pulled down. Oh, this got pulled down on YouTube.
It's a censorship
this got
free
pulled down
thought.
because
when you censor free thought,
and it's
to
so
think
wrong.
either side of what the center is or whatever it's supposed to be, what they're doing is they're trying to control whatever they think that the actual thing is, whatever the fact is. And when they abolish that, you can't think any deviation from it, whether it's from the right side or the left side or any other angle, then they limit of what's actually out there to the point where people who maybe question things in the first place start to lose that free thought, and they start to believe, that only thing that's out there. And I think that's kind of a scary thing.
Well, yeah, I think what they've hinted on is not good at all, because it doesn't help their side at all. So you're going, okay, I don't want this information out because it's against what I believe, and because of what I believe this is now harmful to the public. That right there, you pulling that down, doesn't look good for your side at all. Doesn't look good for you to make an argument, because you're silencing information. What you're supposed to do when you counter somebody with a counter argument is you're not supposed to yell. You're not supposed to get physical, because we all know that goes nowhere. What you're supposed to do is state your cause, state your claim, state your opinion in the best way that represents your opinion and your thought, and then have that guy counter. And one of my favorite debaters who practices this all the time is Ben Shapiro. Have you seen the way he debates?
Oh, yeah. That dude is way too smart for his own good.
Well, and it's because of his debate tactics where he doesn't have to scream. Now, I've watched him lose his cool once or twice, and it's so not like him, but I mean, it's happened. And it's just the sure fact he's human. He's not a robot. But he's known for his tactical debate maneuvers, which is, I'm going to counter your logic with a lot of facts that I have, a lot of what I think, but I'm going to articulate it in a way that you can understand that doesn't come off as harmful, so you ingest the information and you don't just get emotional. Because all we're seeing on Twitter, all we're seeing on Facebook when somebody writes a log of text is pure emotions with no factual basis.
Yeah, exactly. But here's even another perspective. So you've got people that they want to control their side because they fit in a global group of thoughts. That's what they all decide that is the truth. Then you've got another group that they believe that so much. It's not so much of just having different viewpoints. It's that they want to control the source of truth, and they have decided that that's exactly what truth is. There was a podcast with Joe Rogan and what's his name? Not Dave, the owner of Twitter. What's his name?
Oh yeah, Jack Dorsey.
Yeah, Jack Dorsey. And pretty much what Jack's thing is, I mean, he didn't seem like a guy that he just wants to control it because he's on either side of a political agenda or a scientific view or whatever it is. He truthfully believed that, what he was trying to do, whether it's Twitter or even YouTube, not that he owns YouTube, I just want to clarify that, that's what's the truth. And, people would be asking him like, okay, well, what makes you get to decide what the truth is? And he really couldn't give a specific answer, which is kind of, scary. I think it's more scary when you can't give an answer why you think you should decide what the truth is versus someone who's like, they're just screaming at you because they are mindlessly believing, whatever anyone is spooning down their throat.
And I think that Jack Dorsey started all this, in my opinion. So I don't think Jack Dorsey's a bad man, but everyone knows that Twitter started silencing and blocking and taking off of the platform right-wing politicians. They started with Alex Jones, and also a lot of stuff, whether you're an Alex Jones fan or not. I'm not going to sit here and act like I don't listen to the guy, and I'm not going to sit here and act like everything the guy says I think is factual. What I do think is that the guy's been right about a lot of stuff that we all were like, dude, you're crazy. And just like organ harvesting in China. Yeah, when we heard that on the podcast, everyone laughed. I laughed so hard. I'm like, this guy's out of his mind. Oh, yeah. Well, turns out he was right. Who's laughing now? Right? And I mean, it's scary, right? But I mean, so what Jack Dorsey did on Twitter was or Twitter, I should say, was the first platform to start silencing people and censoring people. And now YouTube's adopted that, and it ties right into what I was saying before. You give them an inch, they'll take a mile, a mile. And so now you're seeing it with Facebook. Facebook's pulling everything down. Everyone's kind of following suit. And now we're in an all-time battle for the freedom of information. because now everything's being censored to you. And this is what you wanted, socialist, right? Well, this is it. And now I hate it, because it's like, okay, who did we trust anyway? But now who do we trust at all? Now we're filtered information, and now we got to go to subreddits and use DuckDuckGo as a search engine just to find real.
Not the, you know? Yeah, it's not the fact of that you can just look to any one person, because I think that the truth is ever evolving. You know, you're going to have your views on something, and then you might hear or read something where, you know, explains something else where it might change your view on something else. And so you're going to have two people. You're going to have ones that they are so set in their ways that they're not willing to change. You're going to find that both on, you know, the left or the right side or wherever it is. And you can't look to that person for the truth, because you're just going to end up, you know, getting the same thing fed over and over again. And you're going to have the other side where I think that they're going to believe a certain thing, again, either on the left or the right, but they're also going to be willing to hear another viewpoint and hopefully make an educated, you know, choice on whether to change that viewpoint based on maybe new information, new truth, or they're going to continue to just believe what they have been believing for the last, you know, umpteen years because of whatever the case is.
Yeah, I just think what we've hinted on right now is your voice is so important right now. The fact that they're censoring things, the fact that they're putting things down and taking them off of the internet, and we now have nothing but filtered information. It's like, who wants us to see that? I think it's very dangerous that we as a society now have one avenue of information. That's not what this country is, and that's what you get when we're at an all-time fear pandemic right now. So people are operating in a way they've never operated before. They're thinking in a way of nothing but fight or flight mode, because the horror stories I've heard from my personal friends are enough. And I can't imagine what the entire nation's going through, yet alone the globe.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
now you have people are acting out. And now they're getting one avenue of information, and they're not allowed to free think anymore, because if they are and they post it up, you're going to block them. You're going to restrict their account. You're going to pull down their video and demonetize them on YouTube. Now they're living in more fear. Dude, it's a bad precedent that's being set.
Yeah, I agree. My main hope is through this pandemic, through this quarantine, through everything, is that it encourages not only just free thought, but also a healthy dialogue. That's been my biggest thing. Like, I can disagree with a lot of people, and that doesn't bother me. But the main thing is, like, can we sit down and have a conversation, and can I explain to you why I feel about a certain subject? And can you sit there and tell me about the way that you feel about a certain subject, and can we come to a healthy understanding? And I think that we're starting to see that a lot more and more. I mean, the number one podcast in the nation, let's be honest, is Joe Rogan. And that guy has everyone from all walks of life, from politicians to scientists to celebrities to hunters, whatever it is. And I've noticed that the way that he handles his podcasts he's going to find different viewpoints, you know, from that person. He's going to offer different perspectives. But hopefully at the end of the podcast, they can arrange on a healthy understanding of, you know, where they are in their beliefs in certain items and maybe where they disagree. But they're able to do it in a healthy way, which I think we're starting to see more and more of that. That's why I think we've been seeing a lot more podcasts, you know, open up over the last couple of years. I think that's why, you know, no matter where you go in, you know, the comment section, in whatever news site, YouTube, wherever it's at, you see people of different viewpoints, you know, arguing, but you also see a good amount of just talking about stuff. Because if you notice, and here's a good example. There's I forgot the YouTube channel, but there's one where they basically take two people from different walks of life. You know, whether it's someone who's lived, you know, in the poor neighborhood of a town, and the other one who lives in a rich neighborhood, and they just have them talk about different things. And so I think we're going to see a lot more and more of that, hopefully. But at the same time, if people don't start speaking up and using their voice, you know, everything else, you know, the corporations, the huge news sites, they're going to keep controlling the narrative, and you're going to lose that voice more and more.
Well, and I think that's why politics has become such a dirty game, not just with the politicians, but with society. And it's because the two-party system, right? You're forced to think one way or you're forced to think the other way, and there's no medium. And if you cast your vote for an independent, oh, you're just wasting your vote, right? So it's like we're forced to pick a side here. And it's like, okay, well, I agree with some of the things the left is doing, but I agree with some of the things the right are doing. And so now it's like, okay, because I agree with clause 2, 5, and 9, now I can't have clause 1, 4, 6, 10, and because now I have to sacrifice one. So no one's truly getting what they want. And so now it's become this almost a football game. Oh, you're left. Oh, you're right. Well, we can't be friends now. I mean, how much have we seen that on social media? You know,
it's an insane amount.
And I think it's, yeah, and go to any, just log in Twitter. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about, you know? And so, I mean, I think it's a real lost art. I think there's a beauty in, like, me and you and I, Micah, we've had disagreements on tour because we're friends, but what have we done? We've always talked through them.
Yeah.
We've always, and that's what friends do. So it's become such a lost art to be like, oh, you don't agree with me? You don't agree with my political agenda? Well, now I hate you. And it's like, whoa. Why do we got to go that far? Why can't we siphon through these things? And even if we don't, when we come to an impasse, why do we have to separate and never talk to each other again? Why can't we just be friends? We're no human in this world. I don't care if you agree on everything political. I don't care if you agree on everything religiously. No human in this world can spend every day of their life with another human and not have a disagreement.
Oh, yeah, you're going to. And that's what makes you, I think, grow and become more mature every day is how do you deal with an opposing viewpoint without just acting out? And that's where we've gotten to the point where
that's why
a lot of people are they're just acting out because that's all they know. They've never, had someone sit down with them and just talk with them. Because I've noticed that if you have a someone with an opposing viewpoint, if you just start yelling at them, they're going to do the exact same thing. But sometimes,
and then it goes nowhere.
It goes absolutely nowhere, and it was a waste of an hour of you thinking you came out on top, which is so stupid, so ironic. And then you've got others where sometimes if you just sit down, it's like, hey man, this is how I feel on this issue. Let's just talk about it. They're gonna get a little irritated at first. But you'll notice and start to see that they'll kind of calm down and they'll start to talk to you. And you'll offer some viewpoints they've maybe never heard before. And they're going to offer some viewpoints, you've never heard before. And it's up to you to be an adult and figure out how you're going to process that information and, make your judgment after that conversation of how you feel on that issue. And that kind of leads to
100%.
And that kind of leads to the next thing. We've been mentioning Joe Rogan, and there's some news that popped up today that I kind of feel like that we need to discuss just for a little bit because it's very prevalent, not only in the podcast industry, but music. So I read today that Spotify just struck a deal with exclusive streaming to the Joe Rogan podcast. So we're going to get techie for just a second. The Joe Rogan podcast is on Apple podcast. It's on YouTube, and I believe a few other ones, but it's not on Spotify. So now he is only going to be having his podcast. It'll still be for free, but it'll be on Spotify only, both for video streaming and audio streaming, which means you're not going to be able to get it on Apple Podcasts. You're not going to be able to get it on Anchor, which you're probably listening to right now, or YouTube, which you also may be listening to this right now on. So I'm kind of curious, Pat, what do you think that this means not only for the future of podcasts, but I know that Spotify has kind of had a bad name in the last 5 or 10 years with music on not paying out their artists and along those lines.
Well, if you can remember, let's take you back down memory road, when when Spotify was taking off and everyone was making the transition to streams in our music industry, we had a lot of people boycott it, right?
Oh, yeah.
But then all they realized, in my band too, we boycotted it. I was one of the spokesmen along with my singer at the time. And we were like, nah, man, they're not paying artists anything. Taylor Swift went at them. We got behind her bandwagon. But then what happened? A lot of people jumped back on. And now a lot of people are in full support. And now that's become a lot of people's main revenue is streams. And so what they hinted on was a change. And people were not willing to accept the change. But change doesn't care if you accept it or not. because it's changing and nothing's gonna stop it. And that was music evolving right there. So I think that Spotify was ahead of the game. I mean, there's a lot of other sub streaming sites too. So I mean, it's not like Spotify reinvented the wheel, but they're the biggest streaming platform right now. I do have a theory on this as to why Joe Rogan did this, though.
Let's hear it. Let's do it.
And that theory is that, I mean, how many podcasts have you listened to at Joe Rogan where he's like, oh, and he used to do this all the time where he would play a YouTube video in the back, and then all of a sudden he got demonetized, or he would get copyright infringement, and then they would take all the ad revenue from it. And dude, you can see through every podcast that he does that he's always having Jamie bring up something, and then now he's like, oh, you can't play the volume because they'll take it, the copyright infringement, blah blah blah, they'll demonetize. And so YouTube has literally just shit on everybody so much with
they
nothing
have monopolized, because if they're not going to give out a cent to anyone, if there's a way that they're going to get half a cent, they're going to take it. And if you cry about it, boo-hoo, go take it up with someone else, because you're not going to get anything out of it.
And so he just strong-armed the shit out of him, dude. He just said, you know what, I'm signing exclusively with Spotify. And now think about how relaxed he's going to be. Now he can pull up these things. Now he can do this. And who's going to demonetize him now? He just signed an exclusive. And I guarantee you that's in his clause, because how passionate he is about it, how many of those informational videos he tries to bring up, and he always has to be conscious about it. He's going to be able to breathe easier.
Yeah, I believe
that's my theory on why he did it.
He still has creative control, but it's just licensed to Spotify solely. And you know,
and he doesn't have to worry
here's
about.
A quick question on that. I'm not sure. It says it's going to be free on Spotify, but as we all know, that unless you have the premium Spotify version, you know, you can't select certain songs. You got to wait for it to come up in the playlist. I wonder if it's going to affect that, and it's going to cause an upheaval in subscriptions to their premium service.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I mean, it's entirely possible. I could see it actually happening.
Yeah, definitely. He's got enough supporters that believe in that podcast that I believe that they would do it in order to only listen to his podcast. I mean, again, he is probably the number one biggest podcast in the nation, and he's so popular with people on the left and the right because he brings people from different walks of life and different, you know, political backgrounds. And he's still able, again, as a human being, just have a conversation with someone and hear their side. And, you know, he's not going to decide if this is the truth or not, but he's going to like compare it to what he knows. And I think that's what we all should do as humans is, you know, I'm not saying that you talk to someone the opposite, you know, viewpoint, and after that you decide, oh, maybe I should believe some of that. No, it's for you to make an educated, you know, discernment and decision on what you're going to let parts of that conversation add to your mind and your viewpoint on certain things.
Well, I think what was so appealing about his podcast, and for the listener, the very first podcast I ever listened to was actually a Joe Rogan podcast, and I was so blown away at the long-form conversation where he gives you a chance to hear somebody that you've already had a predetermined idea of. And he did it with Bernie Sanders on there. You actually got to hear him in an hour format talk instead of these snippets online. You know, it doesn't matter if you agree with him or not. You actually got to hear him out besides these, you know, biasly put out, you know, little articles or these little snippets where they take the worst parts of the speech, you know, and it happens to Trump all the time too. It happens to every politician. Yeah, exactly. Dude, it just happened to Kenneth Copeland, right? COVID-19.
Man, my meme group
that's
from
the
church,
number one
we've
thing.
just been sending videos back and forth. The best one is there's a band from Australia called 12 Foot Ninja, and their guitar player did this jet version of this, and it was so perfect. I cannot tell you. If I could play it for you guys right now, I would, but we're going to be putting this on YouTube, so we'll probably get taken down anyway.
Exactly. But dude, let's be honest. If COVID-19 ended tomorrow, 20 years later, everyone's going to remember COVID-19, I blow. Dude, everyone.
They're going to play that. They're going to play that as a horror
during...
video for their kids when they want to scare them about something. Because I tell you, the look on his face it was so creepy looking that I don't know what was going on. I'm sure the guy is fine. I've got nothing against him. I'm just saying, how did he not go after the broadcast and like, all right, let's look and see what it looked like, and like, let's take that down. I'm scaring people right now.
Bro, have you seen the interview where that woman asks him, so do you think poor people are demons? I've never been more terrified in my life of that guy's face. Dude, the way he looks at her when he answers it, I never said that. I was like, ah! Dude, I flipped,
legit
man.
thought he was
that
about
was like
to just pop her right in the face. And I think he was about to, and then he kind of forgot where he was and then snapped back to reality. I'm like, ooh, man, what do you do if the cameras weren't on?
Goodness. Yeah, well, I mean, the guy's living large, bro. The guy's the biggest baller in the world. I mean, let's be honest. He's balling for Jesus, man. The guy's worth $760 million. He bought Tyler Perry's private jet, and the dude doesn't have to pay taxes. Who does that sound like? Besides the jet, that sounds like Al Capone, you know. And
seriously,
and you know, I mean, and speaking of Al Capone, I just watched the new Tom Hardy.
Oh, how
Capone
is it?
movie. Have you
Because
seen it?
I have it. It's on my list too. I've heard mixed reviews.
Don't
about
watch it. It was so awful that I wanted to call the fire department and have them put it out with an axe. It was so bad. Dude, and I'm a big history buff, so I know a lot of the historical facts about Capone. I've been to all of his speakeasies in Chicago. I've been to his gravesite. This was the last year of his life. Spoiler alerts. And it was just, dude, it was so boring. I never thought that. I mean, Tom Hardy he's a badass no matter what movie he plays in, and he did his best. But dude, this is such a lackluster film. Words can't even describe it. Now, if you want to go watch it and have yourself a glass of bourbon, it might be better, and then again, it might not. So,
I think you might need a few more.
That's
glasses of bourbon
That's my true take on it. Yeah, maybe the whole bottle for that one, bro. So, but yeah, man. So I mean, in you know, going off of Capone, this is tied into our other subject. So, in modern day life right now, in this pandemic, I think it is at an all-time high of perspective, or just recognizing that actions speak louder than words. So I'm going to ask you, Micah, do actions speak louder than words to you?
Oh, I was kind of saving that for my my rants for later, but let's just go into it because it's a rant, but it's also a big conversation. I've always,
bro, this whole podcast is a rant.
All right, so let's talk about it. I've always tried to live my life that my actions speak louder than words. And the reason for that is I've heard so many empty promises from people. I've heard people say that they're going to be there for you, that they're going to do this and that. And when it comes down to it, if there's any inconvenience, they stop. And this goes to everything. I mean, this is not just, you know, a relationship with, you know, friends or family. I mean, this goes to, you know, your way of life, you know, at work, or, you know, the politician that said he was going to lower taxes, and lo and behold, as soon as he got in the office, he raised them. And that's why I think that people need to start doing things and stop talking so much. And I know it's just kind of contradictory to what we were saying about using your voice, but at the same time, stop using your voice to just spout off. Like, if you're actually going to do something, why don't you do it? People want to be known for their actions, not their words. I want to be able to know that, you know, I don't have to say much to Patrick, and if I just say, like, hey, man, I need some help right now, he would come up. He's not going to always, like, as soon as he comes up, like, hey, bro, anytime you need anything, blah, 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 because Pat talks, but at the same time, you know, we're guys, we're not going to, like, you know, every second, like, talking about, like, hey, man, this is what's going on right now. I think that's just, you know, how guys are in society.
And not to cut
Go
cut you off real quick, but I think it's a men specifically. There's a lot of men in modern day times, or even in the back, that need a sense of validation. So they always need to let you know that, bro, if you need anything, I got you.
Yeah.
And it's not that they don't mean it, but you're like, you know,
it's just
well,
a thing to
man,
say.
if the opportunity arises. But how many times have you been let down when you actually lean on that person? They're like, sorry, bro, I'm busy.
Hey, dude, so many times. I've had people tell me, like, hey, man, you guys are family. You guys are a brother, you know, all this kind of stuff. And then when something goes down that could have been solved with just an easy just conversation, they just write you off. Or you're in the middle of something, you're going through something really tough, and you reach out, and they're just like, I can't do that right now. And it's like, then why would you say that in the first place? Why
because
why
people
give me false hope? Why not just be a man of your
I think
word?
it's because people yeah, no, I agree. I think it's because people overreach with words, and it ties back into this old Louis C.K. bit, right? I'm sorry, what is a C.K.? I don't know, Louis C.K. maybe. He's a comedian. Anyway, he had this whole bit on men like overreach, or I mean, people just overreach for words. He's like, I heard this guy at this restaurant I was at, and he called these chicken wings amazing. And it's like amazing, which means by definition, amazing is so good that it's bad for you. And so he's like, we overreach with words. If you're calling a basket of chicken wings amazing, what if, Christ comes back, what are you going to call that? Amazing? Because you just wasted that word on a sack of chicken wings, And it's like, I think people overreach, man. And so they try to get so deep to get the point across. But in a heartbeat, I'd be there for you, right? And so if you fail me now, the bar drops faster than it ever would have. I mean, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like that you should just go ahead. I don't know. It's something that it gets under my skin so much because I've had so many people, say things about, that they'd be there or, whatever it is. And then you're let down and then they wonder why, like, you're kind of upset or you're irritated. It's like, well, because you said you would be there. You would do this, you said X, Y, Z, and you continually, don't fulfill that. So then where does that place you, in my list of people that, can be trusted and that I call a friend and stuff like that? Then you become just more of an acquaintance. I know someone that used to be this, but they continually, let you down and they don't want to just talk about it or, own up to that, they failed you. And they just want to leave you hanging there. And they're like, well, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
Well, did you just not remember anything you said?
Exactly, right? And then when they're held accountable, it's like, well, I got all this stuff going on. And it's like, but that's not what you said. You literally said at any cost, hit me up, let me know, I'll be there. You guys are family. If my mom called me, it didn't matter what I was doing, bro. If my mom said, be here now, my dad said, be here now, I'm going, because that's what you mean by saying, bro, no matter what, you call me your family, right? I mean, that's what you're saying. So you've set the bar so high,
yeah. Especially like when you use the word family, there are so many things that tie into being family.
Right.
Family isn't just, blood. It's not just marriage. It's about that bond. If you tell someone that you were family, then bro, you better be willing. That's not a light word to throw around. That's a heavy word. You better be willing to, no matter what's going on, no matter the cost, be able to fulfill that, that sense and that word that you just gave to someone. That's your bond.
Well, I think
so that's what kind of irritates me the most is like, don't say things like family unless you're actually willing to own up to it.
Yeah, I think the one follow-up question when somebody says, hey man, you let me know if you need anything, you guys are family, should be, what does family mean to you? Because, well, hey, man, my family hasn't talked to each other in 30 years. Oh, okay, so you're going to be there for me in 30 years. Or,
Yeah.
it's all perspective. So I think it's just the best follow-up for that. So, I mean, basically what we're saying, guys, is that actions speak louder than words. If you're about it, you don't got to talk about it because you're going to be about it. That's almost a real talk homie segment there.
Yeah, exactly. And here's another kind of tidbit for that. Don't necessarily just write them off because they're going to say that. You have to have like a sense of awareness. So if someone is going to say like, hey, your family, you're this, you're that. If that kind of person is known for it, that's fine. Just let them say what they're going to say, but don't be surprised when they let you down. That's another thing is don't necessarily just because they're going to say, that their family, they're this, they're that, don't take so much into it unless you know them.
Well,
then it's like, then when something happens and they fail you, then you've got something to talk about.
Yeah, and I have for my Real Talk Homie segment, which we'll get to later in this podcast, I actually have something to build off of that. So speaking of family, we're going to tie into our next topic, which is, well, it's not really a topic. It's just kind of a general thing that I and Micah have noticed. Has anybody out there seen this? When a parent covers their face with a mask but leaves their child without a mask. What type of...
Oh, okay. We're going to do Real Talk Homie now because this gets under my skin, especially being a parent. Okay. So I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to take it from you, Pat, for just a little bit.
Go for it.
All right. You know what irritates me the most is when I'm out in public and I see parents with a mask on and they act all, weird and funky when you get near them. But you know what? Their kids have nothing on. So it's like, oh, what? You just said screw your kid. If they get it, they get it no matter what. Not that the mask would actually do anything, but still, like, that you'd have so little disregard for your child and for that human life that you're like, oh, I'm going to take care of me, but, whatever happens to them, whatever. That's just so, man, as a parent, it's so disrespectful, and it's such a low regard for human life, in my opinion. And what makes it worse is they probably don't even understand what's going on. That parent put their mask on, they brought their kid, they didn't put a mask on their kid, and they didn't see anything wrong with it. They're like, oh, well, they're too little, or they won't keep it on. Then you either make two decisions. You either figure out a way to stick that damn mask on your kid and keep it on, otherwise stay home. There's a thing called Amazon. If you don't know how to use it, I will show you. Send us an email. We'll work with you.
We got you. We're experts. I think that is the most backward-ass logic, not what you said. With these people that are going out into public, and they wear a mask for themselves, the grown people, and then they don't cover their kids. Well, when their kids get home, did they get COVID? No. Then why the fuck did you wear a mask? It's like, dude, I just don't get it. I don't get it at all. But it's also like, okay, I'm the grown-up here. I'm going to wear a mask if my kid gets it. Or maybe they just don't have enough masks, so they're like, one person has to be safe at least. Dude, it just seems so stupid. I've seen people wear blankets. I've seen people wear trash bags.
Exactly. There is always something you could use.
If you're that scared,
put some underwear on that kid or something.
Yeah, put his underwear on him. If you're that scared, you shouldn't even be in public anyway. I mean, honestly, it's called freedom, people. You can stay home if you want to, and people can go out if they want to, and your civilian ass has no reason or right to scream at them over your fear-based agenda. Real talk, homie.
No. I mean, I was at the store the other day, and I'm shopping. I forget what I was looking for, and this lady and her couple of kids, she had a mask on, but her two kids didn't. And the item I needed to get was near one of the kids. So I reached for it. Oh, no. He was running around, I guess, around the cart and almost ran into me while I was reaching for something. And her mom started to scream at her. And I'm like, listen, it's just like there's nothing that's going to happen.
Mike's getting a little fired up.
Like, you have that mask on. You're getting pissed off that, your kid is running to someone who might have COVID. And yet you did nothing to help the prevention, whether masks work or not. That's something else. But still. Like, you put a mask on, you decide when you're going to go out, you're going to put that mask on, it's going to help you in some way, shape, or form. And then you look at your kid, and you're like, nah, they're good. Then you go out, and you want to get mad at a stranger for getting near your child who, was just trying to shop and do their normal thing. And yet you couldn't do any preventive measures on your child who you think that a mask is going to save you.
But can we all agree that it's
so bad?
Can we all agree that the fear-based thing where they're like, okay, one of us is going to have to make it over a 99.95% survival rate virus? I mean, this is all over that, right? This virus was clearly not what we thought it was. All the stuff that was coming out. I mean, the success rates. I mean, yes, 80-something thousand people are dead, but a lot of them had pre-existing conditions, and I'm not trying to devalue their death. I mean, these people died. But also, can we really believe that crap because of all the fabricated numbers, because of all the granting stuff where people have forged death certificates to up the COVID numbers because of funding through Medicaid and whatnot? And so it's like this whole person, right? I'm putting myself in their shoes. I'm going to go to HEB, which is the dopest grocery store, only in Texas, and I'm going to take my kid into public now. Well, but Daddy, I don't have a mask. Suck it up, kid. I got one. That's all we need. And it's like, I've seen, and it's not just one person I've seen do this. I was on my way to you for the last podcast and stopped at a gas station. This woman's out there pumping gas, and then she takes her kids in, and both of the kids don't have masks, and she's wearing a mask. I mean, what does that look like? You know what that looks like to me? Looks like if a bear was chasing after you and your family, you'd throw your kids out and save your own ass. That's what it looks like. I mean, because you're like, okay, I believe that there's this this virus out there that's so crazy and it's going to kill the world and I'm going to wear a mask, but my kids are going to be fine, right? And dude, it's just all these people reaching for information and answers and no one's getting it. Why? Because you got places like YouTube and you got places like Twitter that are deplatforming people and yanking down their videos because they don't agree with it. I mean, this is the shit right here that you get. You get people reaching all over the place. You get people acting non-accordingly because they don't know what to do. So what do? They come up with their own logic. And, dude, there's some stupid logic out there.
And they can't agree on anything. I mean, it was funny. I don't remember if it was CNN or Fox News. Someone was talking about how their numbers of the COVID deaths don't even match up to the CDC. Like, how crazy is that? That you couldn't even, either one, they just didn't take the time to go look at it, or they're deliberately inflating numbers to, produce more fear and panic into the economy and all the states and stuff. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then they can't even agree on what preventive, treatments there are, if there are. You've got people, just talking out their rear to say, no, well, this will work. I mean, I was listening to a podcast today of a doctor who, she was saying some things of what you could do, and then you go to listen to another podcast, and the doctor's like, well, you could probably do that, but it's probably not going to work. You need to try this, X, Y, Z. So it's like, what are we all supposed to believe? We can't even make an educated guess because no one can get their facts straight, and everyone's just talking out their ear because there's always an agenda.
Well, if I was to create a pandemic, right, and I wanted whatever agenda I had, but I wanted to stir up society, I would make it really hard to access information. I would cause fear and pandemonium, and I would just go for control. I mean, this is what anybody would do that has this out. Well, unfortunately, we're living in a time where all that stuff is happening right now. You got information being brought down. You got fear and pandemonium. You got people that are so broke, laid off, and they don't know what to do, and so they're living off that stimulus package. And now the House passed another stimulus, but there's no way it goes through the Senate. And so what are those people gonna do? Well, now you got California and you got Michigan wanting to keep their stay-at-home orders until mid-June or later. And now people are like bringing guns to the governor of Michigan's house, bro, and they're protesting. And it's like, this is what you wanted because you want control. When the hell did we get in a position where humans are going to control us? We're the same species. We all bleed red. And because you said it, I have to abide by that. That is not what this country is.
No, it wasn't founded on that at all. I mean, like you said, LA, I think LA is even further to, I think, September. And you got everyone, because it's just that county, LA County, and everyone is pissed off that they're having to sacrifice their work or whatever it is and stay home just because someone said that's what needs to happen. They didn't explain like, hey, based on this, research or whatever it is. They just say, oh, well, we believe this should happen. Well, where are you even getting that research that, everyone should stay home for another 2 or 3 months?
Yeah.
By this point, I feel like everyone's just going to say, you know what, we're just going to have everyone stay home for the next year. We'll just keep sending you money and not thinking about the repercussions. But, oh, wait a minute, we can't get the money sent out because you guys can't even agree on what's in the package. I guaranteed that if the Republicans were trying to do this, they would have some little, clause in the thing that they were trying to pass along with, sending money out. Same thing what the Democrats are doing. No one can actually act in the best interest of the human people in the United States of America. It is so sickening right now.
Yeah, a pandemic that is killing people, causing fear and pandemonium, now has been a huge platform, now has been nothing more than political opportunism. And you're seeing it all over, people trying to make a profit from it, people trying to use this. Governor Cuomo makes me sick. I'm so sorry. A lot of people support the dude, but I see right through him, man. And his comments about God didn't stop this virus, and you can clearly see where he's at with his ego, bro. And so you got all this tying into it. You got people in the houses or their apartments or what have you that are killing themselves because they don't know what to do. This woman jumped off the bridge with her son like a couple days ago because she got laid off. And all this stuff. So, there was already a mental health major epidemic in this country before due to the, obviously we know this, pharmaceutical companies pushing pain pills down people's throats, and then giving doctors incentives to prescribe them, and people were popping them like freaking Pez dispensers. And so now we have a mental health thing. Well, hey, where did mental health go during this pandemic? Because that still exists. Hey, where did Ebola go? Hey, where did the common flu, the common cold, and any autoimmune deficiencies or any other sicknesses out there go? They've all been silenced. And now it's all about COVID. Well, guess what? Mental health still exists. It's still a major...
He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. And if anything, you put this much stress and people are in fight or flight mode, it's done nothing but promote it. So what are you really trying to push here? You're trying to push more pain pills. Now you're trying to forge death certificates and up the COVID numbers. And this shit is so fishy to me. And now I'm not 100% right about this, but I think we can all agree that something's not right here. And it's not right how the media's portrayed it or the politicians.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that definitely don't add up that I think that we just can't figure out what that is. We can't place our finger on it. But people are starting to wake up. People are starting to realize that, you know what, this isn't as, I wouldn't say it's bad, because I don't want to throw that word around, because people are still dying. People aren't just, not dying. All that it's still happening, and it's still a real threat. But at the same time, it's not the way that the media has portrayed it. It's not the way that the politicians have portrayed it. And it's so blown out of proportion that it's affecting that everyday life. Everything from businesses to people to, dude, the cost of meat is skyrocketing. I was in the store yesterday trying to buy ground beef. A pound used to be, I think, $4.50. Now it's up to like almost $7 to $8.
Well, that also kind of ties into the famine epidemic, and it's not really, I shouldn't say epidemic, but it has become kind of a concern. So now we know that Wendy's had a shortage of beef, and that's why they're pushing their chicken sandwiches.
Yep.
Arby's had a little thing. I don't know if they made it through, but you're starting to see, and then obviously we know as going back to episode 1, obviously we know what we saw in just our own communities of people fighting over meat and not being able to purchase some amount of meat. So now they're upping the cost on it, because now it's almost being like, okay, there was so much waste before. There was so many dump videos of produce, meat, and even my own apartment complex going to take out my trash, seeing packaged meat in there that somebody could have ate, but somebody threw it away because they overbought and it expired. And so now they're upping the dollar on that. So it's kind of a good thing, and then it's also a bad thing to the people that really want to eat it. And so now it's like we're caught in between again, right? It's a two-party thing. So now it's like, hey, up the cost.
Exactly.
Not as many people will buy as many. Or we can just use a socialism tactic that actually works, which is limit 2 per customer. Limit this, where the government says, or the
which they've started doing, which I'm hoping is going to help lower the costs. But it's not just that. I mean, I think that's a big portion of it, people just buying up stuff. But the other main portion is that all these factories that are processing, all these things. I heard Elon Musk talk about this. Talk about it, I think about a week ago. He was saying, if you have everyone at home, there's no one to do the stuff that everyone needs. If you got no one working, there's no stuff going on.
So true.
There's no one working in the factories. There's no one building the cars that are needed to drive. There's no one doing the maintenance for all these services. So if you have all these factories that are starting to shut down, you've got no one working them, of course things are going to rise up. The prices are going to rise, and it's not going to help that, you've got one per customer. Pretty soon, if, no one's working these factories, it's going to be like, hey, you can only buy meat on Wednesdays if you live in a certain county on a certain street. And so it's like, people need to figure out, like, how do I make this work? Because all they're doing is talking about COVID, which is great. That's fine, I guess. It's whatever. But at the same time, there are real life situations going on that people need to address. You can't just have people, not work for, a good amount of time for this quarantine, because it's hopefully going to lower the infection rate. You got to make do and figure out what you can do to fix the situation now. So if that means that you have to either expand production in order to have the same amount of employees, so that way you can make your shipments on time, that's what needs to be done. But no one's doing that.
Well,
all they want to do is have either people stay home and they just want to enforce more and pass more and more rules.
Yeah, and it's just been reaching. But what I really think is that the overconsumption of meat, where people were just being wasteful. You got people that honestly think, dude, I'm gonna send you this video. I saw it on YouTube 2 days ago, and this woman is speaking, going, I don't know why we need all this meat. All these cows and chickens have to die because we can just get our meat at Walmart. She literally thinks that Walmart makes the meat and it doesn't come from animals. Bro, this is how dumb our logic is.
Wow,
and
it's so ignorant.
It is so ignorant. And so it's like there's people, I mean, we already know, because we're the freest country in the world, that a lot of our citizens have adopted this selfish mentality to where I don't care. Either they're not paying my bills, or I don't care. My kids are eating at night, and they don't care about the next family. The lack of good neighbor in this country is at an all-time low, and this pandemic has brought that to an attention of the globe, about how selfish America can be, because we're the ones getting pinned. You don't see these dumps being uploaded from Sweden or Russia or anything. You see them all from America, and the whole world seeing that. So everyone's got us labeled as these selfish people. Well, rightfully so, when you see what we've seen in our communities, when you see people looking at each other as just a threat, and there's no good neighbor mentality. I shook a dude's hand 2 days ago, and dude, it felt great. I'm like, wow, this is being personal again.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's not that I wanted to touch the dude. He just offered me a handshake, and I shook his hand. And it's like, damn, dude, what was that like? I can think back to February, which probably was the last time I've done that. You know?
That's probably the last time we all like shook someone's hand.
Seriously. It's like, it's the weirdest thing. And so now we're just in this weird thing where everyone's a threat. I don't know what information to get. And the information, there's certain information that's being brought down. And now I can't even go buy meat because it's more expensive. And then when I do and have the ability to buy meat, the shit's all gone anyway. And so it's like, what do we do here? Well,
exactly.
It is time to unite, America. It is time for leaders to step up. And if they don't, we have the ability to run this country, because we the people. And people have to remember that. Unfortunately,
yeah, it's our obligation. It's our obligation, because if our leaders don't step up, and if we don't step up, the things that are still going on in everyday life are going to go on the wayside, and it's going to build up to the point where it's just going to start impacting things right and left. And you can forget about what's going on with COVID, because this is going to be the more, important issue at hand. And that kind of leads back to what you were saying about mental health, that mental health is still something that happens every day. And I truly believe that this quarantine was probably not the best proponent to be having that, because, you're isolated, you're at home, you're inside your thoughts, a lot more if they weren't already, because there's nothing else, taking your mind off of stuff other than, if you're watching Netflix or whatever you're watching. And so that kind of leads to where Becca and I, my wife Becca, we watched Joker for the first time. I know it came out, like 6 months ago or something like that?
Bro, y'all just watched it?
A while back. It just came on HBO. Hey, look, we're parents. We want a couple hours to ourselves. So sometimes, like after Atticus goes to bed, we just want to chill and just kind of talk and hang out.
For sure.
And it's been on my list, but I also know that I wasn't pushing to it, because I know from the reviews and the people talking about that it had a very heavy connotation in regards to mental health. And because my wife does, have I guess a thing. I don't know necessarily what to call it. I'll let her maybe come on the podcast and explain it.
Yeah.
But she deals with mental health. And I didn't want it to, be and bring a very real, issue and just kind of make her feel down. So we've been putting off to say. Anyway, so we watched it this weekend, and that is the most raw version of someone's ongoing battles, and the most like down, as low as you can go, the bottom of the barrel, like lower than bottom of the barrel. And it gave me like kind of a very raw perspective into someone's, everyday life, and what can cause them, just the little things, to just go on a tangent or whatever it is. I mean, you saw it, right? You've seen the Joker?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so it for those of you who don't know, and I'm not going to spoil anything, I will just say that it deals a lot with mental health, and not just something where you read an article and it says like I had a tough day. No, this is something where you've got demons, that have been haunting you for years, and no one gives a crap about you, which is something that people experience. It's a very real thing that people experience, in this day and age, especially if you deal with mental health. And I think that this quarantine, probably there's a lot of people that had to face their fears and face their demons head on, as opposed to trying to tuck it back in their, in the bottom of the box, and hopefully it not come back up that they have to deal with. But, when you're stuck at home, you get stuck inside your head, you start thinking things, your demons come out, they want to talk, they want to start leading you on all these different, mental paths. And I don't think that, putting that off is going to be healthy. I think that that's something that people need to realize, like, hey, just because we've got COVID-19 going on, just because we have a quarantine, doesn't mean that people are not going through this, and it's going to affect, how they come out the other side. If they do, I mean, like you said, people are not able to handle it sometimes, and they want a way out, and sometimes that way is suicide. And I know that that's something very heavy to say, and it's not maybe politically correct, but on this podcast we talk about real things, and that's one thing is sometimes when that mental health gets too much to you, you look for a way out, and sometimes that is one of the ways out.
Yeah, I believe, and also in my opinion, this is my opinion, I also believe what that movie hinted on too was how the system failed them, and how
exactly,
yeah, and like also like his walk of life during that movie is so intense, but that's also somebody's walk of life that's going on right now that gets bullied every day, and tries to be nice to somebody,
so true.
and then the people are now looking at him as a threat because COVID, and he just wants to talk to somebody, and somebody's like, get away from me and my kids, I don't know if you have COVID, and he goes home and he just deals with that pain. That pain never went away before this pandemic. That pain was always there, and now we're in this fight or flight and ultimate stress mode to where now that it's ignited, so he goes out or he has to stay indoors and deal with that thing, and all he can look to is that orange bottle of pills that his doctor told him would take all this away. And when he doesn't have those pills and he runs out of those pills, then he has to be faced with reality. So in my opinion, the pharmaceutical companies have ignited mental health. Mental health is a thing that happens, but you can make it out of it. And I dealt with a severe mental health and depression for the first time months and months ago. And it was a very dark and heavy thing to where I didn't realize that I had a certain extent of mental health. Mental health has been categorized as this, oh my God, this person's crazy type thing. Well, no, you can experience it in seasons. It can come up on you when you're not living right, man. When your mentality's not right. You've gone through something traumatic. You've gone through past experiences, and your past experiences haunt you, it can creep back up on you. And so those things never go away. So now let's add that to the list of diseases that are out there. And now let's add COVID-19 and shut the whole world down. And now that person is going, help me, Jesus. I do not know what to do right now. This shit is so intense. And now you see suicide and domestic violence and God knows what happening in households at an all-time high. But people love to villainize one thing and focus on one thing in this world to get their anger out. And now it's just been COVID. So it's like, hey, what about these people with mental health that are killing themselves? Oh no, there's a pandemic. No. There's a mental health pandemic way before this pandemic that has a 99.95% survival rate, you asshole. And so it's like you need to listen. You need to listen to these people over here because that never went away. You need to listen to these people that almost died of flu before, because that shit will come back just as fast as you think the second wave of COVID-19 will. And the mental health thing, when you are just forced to pop your happy pills, that way you can be sedated and high out of your mind to where you can take your mind off of reality, because that's what it really is. It's reality biting you, and you going, man, no one loves me. I accept that. No one wants to hear what I got to say. I got to suppress my thoughts. That happened to me, and I came out on the better end of that. And what I did was quit taking those pills that the doctors prescribed me. I looked to God for answers, and I look to mental and physical fitness. And what I mean by mental fitness is that goes with all the demons come out when you put yourself under stress and you put yourself under physical energy, and you start using that. You start cycling, like I picked up a new thing, and you start getting, it's not like working out is going to solve all your problems in life. No, but it is a main aspect of you getting your brain right, because when you're feeding your body crap and you're giving your body fuel, you think your brain's going to act right? No way. Your brain goes off of everything that the body has inside of it. So if you're putting in drugs, constant things of alcohol, crappy food, your brain's going to adhere accordingly to what is being ingested in. It's mind, body, and spirit. And if you're out of line on those, that shit will take you down. Thus, you have mental health. That is my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, like people that are going through these types of situations, COVID is their last thing on their mind. They're trying to figure out, how am I going to make it through today, through the next hour? Because it's not just so much so you're going to have people that, they're taking their medication to hopefully help their it. But you also have to realize that because of the economy, kind of going down with, things closing down, there's people who's not even getting, that medication because the doctor's not there or whatever's going on. So they start going off that withdrawal. And then the demons come out in droves. It's not so much where you're just tapering off your medicine and then you're able to kind of figure out how to adjust to that. If you have to come off of that as cold turkey, sometimes that's even worse.
Oh, yeah.
And so you've got someone, you've got people saying, oh, well, COVID's doing this, this is more important. And you're like, dude, what I'm going through right now, I don't know if I'm going to make it through tomorrow. And you're talking about, stuff like, COVID, and it has nothing to do that's going to affect me. Yeah, I might go catch it and I might die, but that's also a very small percentage. So what I'm doing right now is more important than whatever stupid thing that you want to like put in the news and talk about that, is important this, this day or this hour. So that I think that we're going to kind of, I want to have a mental health episode soon. We'll do some stuff. If there's something that you guys want us to talk about, please send us an email. It's in our Instagram page. Send us a message, leave a comment, because we want to hear from you guys. We want to know what you guys are kind of going through and what you guys have been experiencing in this quarantine. But it's definitely something that I also want you guys to understand, that the person that, maybe is across the street, maybe someone you've known for a long time, could be going through something like this. And sometimes the fact that you'll just ask and say, hey man, how are you doing? And just talk about it for a minute will help a lot more than, a pill will. It's just something that it's very dear to my heart, because my wife, she experiences mental health in a way that, maybe we'll talk about at some point. But it's just something that is so underrated and people want to shove under the rug. I mean, yeah, I'm thankful that people are starting to realize that it's important, but they still don't want to deal with it when something bigger, supposedly like COVID comes up.
Well, it's something as simple. That's why you hear those crazy stories out there. It's something just as simple as smiling at somebody that you didn't know needed it. And you hear those stories like, this person crossed the road and I was on my way to kill myself. Dude, I've heard these stories in person to people that would share them at me at random hero shows. And I was walking across the street and I was just ready to end it all and jump in front of a car. And they were like, God sent me an angel. And what they thought was an angel was just a nice civilian that was walking and showed love to a person that they didn't know needed it and continued their day, and that saved that person's life. It's as simple as a smile, because in my opinion, I believe love, showing somebody love, is more powerful than a pill will ever be. That is why they say God is love, and I truly believe that.
Exactly. So again, I definitely want to have a episode sometime in the very near future to talk about this, but I also want to talk about something else that I've kind of been experiencing lately. It's something I've kind of been dealing with and trying to figure out how to navigate through. And maybe you have, Pat, too. I'm not sure. So this might seem very Joel Osteen-ish, but talking about into existence your dreams and not just thinking about that. And the reason I bring this up, even after a heavy subject like that, is because it's something that I've been kind of struggling with, because, I mean, I'm a musician just like Pat, but I also have love for other things. I've always wanted to go into business. I've always wanted to start, new hobbies. And with that, you want to try and figure out like, how do I balance and how do I actually start into it and not just start something and then, never go anywhere with it. Something that maybe we'll talk about at some point. I've always wanted to start a business. My dad, he came from here, from Africa with nothing but the clothes on his back, and he has a very successful IT company now, which I happen to work with and work with him hand in hand. But it's instilled that sense of, being your own man and starting something that's yours, that you can be proud of, that you can leave a legacy to your children and to the future generations and also your community. So something that I've been kind of struggling with the last few years is, what do I want to start, and how do I actually start on it and not just talk about it, which I know, is a little bit different from just thinking about it and talking about, your dreams. But so the other night, I was trying to figure out, how am I actually going to get this business off the ground? Because, once it happens, when I get my business plan going and I start approaching funding and stuff like that, it's going to be a very real thing, very, very quick. And it's going to be very easy to, get scared and nervous of like, well, what if it fails? What if it does this and that? And the fear of that kind of really can hold you back from actually starting on it. And so the other night I was wrestling with this, and I was in my studio. I was kind of messing with some video editing, some lighting in my studio, because I'm still kind of working on that area. And I just put my camera on my stand, and I just started talking. I had no intention of maybe putting it on YouTube or showing it to anyone. I just needed to sit down and kind of verbalize what I was wanting to do, why I was wanting to do it, and how I was going to start on it. Because it's one thing when you start thinking about things that you actually want to get accomplished. It's another when you start talking about it and something in your brain just clicks like that, and you want to start actually working on it and working towards it, because that goal seems very, very real, and it's something that kind of excites you. So I sat down for a good, 30 minutes and just talked. I had no intention of, again, putting it on social media or whatever it is, or I had no idea if someone was interviewing me in the virtual sense. But I just sat there and I started talking about it as if I was like kind of in a documentary, funny enough, explaining why I wanted to start this business, the history behind it, the business sense and the entrepreneurship that my dad put in me. And I just started talking about it. And after I turned off the camera, I felt 100% better on it. It was something where I was excited to get back to work on it, that I knew that even if it failed, it wouldn't bother me, because I know that at least I tried and started on it, and maybe I'll do it again. Edison, I think he found like 101 ways to not make a light bulb before he found it. And that's something that I think that we all should take away. And that's something I've always, try to live, is even if you fail at it, if it's something that you believe in, keep at it, and one day you will figure it out. But that's kind of what I mean of like talking in existence your dreams, and not just thinking about it, because anyone can think about stuff. It's another thing when you start talking about it and you start putting those words into actions, what kind of ties back to our actions speak louder than words. Don't just talk about it, but if you start talking about it enough and you start putting some action behind it, you'll go far with it. So I don't know, Pat, if that's something that kind of applies to you at all.
Absolutely. I think speaking into existence your goals and speaking into existence what you want to accomplish in this life as far as what you consider success, I think that's key, because it has to start in the mind, and you can get caught in your head too much, but when you actually speak it out and you hear yourself, it's almost a different register. And so speaking in goals, I love that you tied it into the previous topic, which is actions always speak louder. But if you coach yourself, because nobody is going to coach you as much as your mind, because they're not in your head, and you are speaking it out in a loud volume to either the people around you, or just like you did, Micah, just in your studio with a camera, and you were just speaking it out. It gets you focused. And I'm a firm believer that any human that sets their mind to something, and I mean sets it to something, can accomplish it. The mind is a very powerful thing. It can also be a very powerful enemy. And this is what mental health people they experience, but it's also what very successful people experience. So let's go back to your father. Your father had a sight in mind to come to America. He didn't have much, and nothing was going to stop him. That speaks volumes of your dad, because he had so much opposition that he could have catered at any moment.
So much.
Any moment. But what did he do? He came over here and started a successful IT business, and he came from Africa, bro. Shimon Lee, that's some badass shit. And that takes a lot of focus, but that also takes somebody that was so goal-oriented and had opposition no matter what, and had to keep themselves focused. So how do you do that? You speak it. You speak it. I wanted to become a musician. I wanted to tour the world. I spoke it out. I asked around. I also made it my goal and within my actions to audition for certain bands. So then one was Random Hero. And I've accomplished my dream of that.
Exactly.
I've done that. And so I'm not stopping there. I have so many other goals. But there's a lot of I guess you could miss the point on speaking goals or life into existence. And there's a lot of people out there that are like, God's going to pay my bills tomorrow. Life is going to give me a better shot. This light is going to turn green. And it's that stupid stuff right there that when it doesn't happen because God's not on your time, homie, or life isn't just not on your time, and that you just totally give up and you give up on the thing, you just kind of quit. That's not how it works. When you speak it into life, it is a consistent motion. Just because I speak it today doesn't mean it's true. But if you keep speaking it every day, consistency is key in everything. And also, everything is interval training. If you don't know what interval training is, it's where you work out hard or you do something hard and then you take a break and then you hit it again. Everything in this world is interval training, because no matter what, you gotta sleep.
Exactly.
So you wake up, you speak your goal and your passion, you speak it to yourself, because sometimes you need to hear it, and you don't need to hear it from your mind, because your mind can turn on you. And so you speak it out, and then you make actions to go accordingly with those plans and stuff right there, and you are on the path to success right there. Now, the problem with that is you're like, oh, I'm on the path to success, but you're impatient. You need to be patient with goals that are huge. And if those goals...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm going to interrupt you just for
No,
a
it's good.
second, because
Go for it.
patience is so key, because let's talk about music for a second.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a little bit of background before I can get to my point. I've been a musician for, 18, 20 years. It's been a long time, but I've been a hired gun. I've been working in the professional sense for the last 7, 8, 9 years, something like that. And it's very easy when you're in that scenario where, let's say you're like 20, 21, 22, and you feel like that you see all these young bands going on. You're like, well, how do I get to that? Why am I not doing that? What am I doing wrong? It's easy to get impatient and not bide your time. I'm not going to go into specifics, but I've been very blessed and thankful to be able to jump from different hoops and get and play with different bands of different calibers and kind of just keep moving up. And it was very easy during that trend, all those transitions, to get very impatient of like, well, I don't have anything lined up. What's going to happen if I leave this opportunity? Well, sometimes you just have to trust God and understand and get off your high horse and know that His timing is not going to be what yours is. You've got to let that go, because if you don't, you're not going to move anywhere. Every opportunity that I ended up leaving because it wasn't the right fit, it wasn't the right move, it wasn't where I was led to, I would talk to God and I'd be like, hey, man, I don't know what's going on. If you want me to be out of the music industry, that's fine, but it's not what I want to do. And I'd be patient. And sometimes opportunities would pop up just like that, and I wouldn't understand how that happened. Other times I had to wait months, almost a year, for a different opportunity to come up. And I think that's one thing that, like you mentioned, being impatient is going to not lead you anywhere. You need to be patient. You need to keep working at it, work those interval training, routines, and know that something is going to come up if it's meant to be. And if you are, constantly in the Word, if you're talking with God and, you feel led to that. So be patient, guys out there. It's going to take you some time to get to where you want to be.
impatience does nothing but promote unsuccessfulness, because if you get impatient
Exactly.
and you start deterring from your goals because you're like, it's not happening quick enough, I need answers now. Sometimes that's worked for people. I know some success stories, but that was more jockeying for position. If you're jockeying for position, patience doesn't really, and sometimes it does, but patience doesn't really apply to you in this. What this is ultimate goals that are spoke from scratch, spoke out of your mouth and from scratch, and now you want to implement them and either be life-changing for you or something that you've always wanted to do. And so you getting impatient with your goals and dreams while the whole rest of that world out there is having doors open and doors closed, and everything is literally the butterfly effect, where one banana peel in the road has a different altered outcome than if that banana peel wasn't in the road. And so it's like, you have to let the world work. While it's working out there, you stay working on your goals and dreams. And for you to get impatient, that's when you need to speak into life, out of your mouth, not in your head, your goals, and always remember why you started these goals. And I think it's a very, any successful person out there, you can go watch like the guy that invented Uber, right? I mean, everybody had the technology. Taxi companies had it 10 years before him, but he said, I'm going to go out there, and I watch his speeches all the time. I love this dude. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to change the world, and I'm going to make people connect, and I'm going to make transportation easier than it's ever been, because I know a lot of people, myself including, back in my 20s or whatever, go into a bar and there wasn't taxis around. So you would be subject to public intoxication, or no matter what, a DUI. And so then he fixed that for everybody. So everyone has a lot to owe that guy. But if he didn't speak into existence, if he got impatient with his ideas and just said, screw it, I'm done because it's not happening fast enough, then somebody else would have stepped in there. Or somebody else, or maybe it would have been a delay thing, and we still wouldn't have Uber to this day, or transportation wouldn't be as easy as it is today. These are the things that you have to keep in consideration, because getting impatient does nothing but kill your creativity and your motivation. Stay patient, take a deep breath, and speak your goals out of your mouth to yourself in a mirror. It's just like Cool Runnings, man. When that guy got in the mirror and he is like, I forget what he said, but go watch that Cool Running thing. It's one of the coolest parts.
Yeah.
He had to coach himself, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And here's something I'll say to kind of end this segment. I encourage all of y'all, if this is something that you guys are struggling with, it does wonders to stand in front of a camera and just put your phone up. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be pretty. Just talk about stuff. And you don't have to release that anywhere. You don't have to put it on YouTube. You don't have to do anything like that. Sometimes the fact of just listening to yourself, record yourself. Maybe in a few days, go listen to that video. See if it helps with things. Then put it away. Then when you're feeling down, every time you're feeling down after that interval training, that you don't know what's next, go back and listen to that. I guarantee you that's going to help and do wonders, and you're going to get a fire, and it's going to help propel you into the next interval training and the next routine. So I definitely would encourage y'all, if that's something you struggle with, or if it's something you're interested in, definitely do some video. And also, I'm curious. Send us a comment, send us an email. Just let us know what you're kind of dealing with in that department, because I'd love to talk about this. This is something that I feel like that is not talked about enough. Not only about starting your own business, but when you're trying to figure out, like, how do I actually start working on your dreams and not just think about it? Start talking about it. Talk about it with your friends, but also realize you're going to get a lot of opposition. So put a video camera, put your phone, whatever it is, and just talk into existence of what you're trying to accomplish. And that will also, I think that when you speak about something, it's going to be very different than thinking a bit, because you're very limited in what you're thinking about, even though the mind is a powerful tool and it has a huge imagination. When you start talking about things, your mind starts turning and thinks about, other perspectives. And so you're thinking about, okay, well, you know what? I was thinking about this earlier, but now that I'm talking about it and thinking about it, I actually think this about it now, and this would be a better fit or a better viewpoint on whatever I'm trying to accomplish.
And I think that's great. And one thing I need to urge to people out there, and I think this is very important, is no matter what your goals are, no matter what your aspirations are, no matter what your passions are, be careful. Be extremely careful on who you share those to. Because one person going, oh, man, that's stupid.
Agree with that.
Yeah, one person that's going, man, that's so stupid. They can absolutely kill all of your creativity and emotion. Surround yourself with people that make you better. Losers hang out with losers. Successful people hang out with successful people. Doesn't mean you got to discard these people from your life, but be careful about the things that are important to you that you share to them. Because maybe somebody will steal your idea. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll hate on your idea and your motivation's ruined. And then you get impatient with your stuff, and that trickles into a snowball effect of just unproductivity. Or maybe the people you surround yourself with and you do share them with can help you to the next step. Be very careful and investigative with who you share your stuff with, because it can hurt you, but it can also help you.
I agree. You know, I'll say this, you know, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. If, like Pat said, if you line yourselves up with people that are either bringing you down or they don't believe in your cause in the sense of like, hey, this is what my friend is wanting to do, I'm just going to help and propel them any way I can. But if they're looking at it from a negative perspective, like, oh, well, did you think about this? Did you think about X, Y, and Z? Then you need to just distance yourself when it comes to that subject, because they are not going to be ones who are going to help you. All they're going to do is, if you ever accomplish that dream, and when you do, then they're going to be the ones like, oh, man, I always believed you could do this. No, you didn't.
Right. Yeah.
You're just doing it because now I'm successful. Those are the naysayers. You need to align yourself with people that are uplifting no matter what you're doing. You know, in this case, in my case with my business, what I'm wanting to accomplish, my biggest proponent and my biggest pusher is my wife, which I am so thankful for. I mean, she sat my rear down last night and was like, hey, you need to get off your butt and you need to start doing this. But at the same time, I was able to hear that and be a lot more receptive because I had done that video and kind of expressed on what I was wanting to do and speaking into existence of what I was wanting to accomplish as my goal.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, man. So I think at this time, let's go into our Real Talk Homie segment. We're coming up on the 2-hour mark.
Yeah, I agree. You know what, Pat? I'm gonna let you start this one off because I know that you probably got some good to talk about.
I do. You know, mine's not as outlandish as the first episode, but this one is very important to me, and I want to share it with the listener. Lower your I'm sorry. Let me start this right. Real Talk Homie segment here. Lower your expectations. And what I mean by that is lower your expectations of people, and you will always be pleasantly surprised. Now, that sounds really depressing. That sounds really demeaning. But what do I mean by that? Lowering your expectations means you have your standards way too high on people. So when they fail you, it hurts you and takes you down and ruins your friendship between them. But if your standards weren't so high for that person, if you didn't put them on a pedestal, then you would always be pleasantly surprised. This is something that I've been practicing for a long time now, and I think it's something that's so dear to me because I used to get so pissed off at people that would fail me. What you need to know is that you will fail people too, and they will fail you. This is all you're always going to do it because no matter what, no matter where you're at in your life, you're not perfect. Show me the most perfect person on this earth. And I'll show you his flaws. They all have them. We all have them. And a lot of them we can hide well, and a lot we can't. But we're all imperfectly perfect. That is exactly what we are. And so, yeah, lower your expectations for people out there. And I think you'll have a lot more friends. I think you'll have a better social interaction with people because you see somebody not wearing a mask, and you go up and yell at them, and you get clocked. Well, your expectations for that person were way too high. Your demand on their actions were way too high. Lower your standards a little bit with people. Be more calm out there and always be yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And that kind of ties back to what I was making earlier in the hour of, your actions speak louder than words. I think that when someone says something, whether it's family or your friends or they say whatever the case is, like Pat was saying, if you dig too deep into that and you have that high expectations of that person, you're constantly going to be let down.
You paint yourself into a corner.
It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just a way of life. And I've had to learn that the last year of, even when it comes to friends and family, of have lower expectations. And I've been very, very surprised. Joel, I'm talking to my brother for a second. If you hear this, I'm sorry, but I have to say it.
Sorry, Joel.
I for the longest time, we've had our differences of certain things, but after a while, and encouragement from my wife, I lowered my expectation of what our relationship was supposed to be. And I decided that, let me just go and do this. And I have been pleasantly surprised on our experiences the last 6 or 8 months in a very, very good way. And that would not have been able to happen if I had higher expectations of what he should be because he's my brother or whatever it is. And I'm not saying this in a bad way, and not Pat isn't either, and I'm speaking for the both of us. We're not saying lower your expectations where you don't think anything of the person. It means lower the sense of, that this is where they're at, but at the same time, if they fail you, you're not going to be surprised and let down so hard. Save that kind of expectations for someone else who, don't just throw it around. Don't have it for a bunch of people. Have your very close-knit friends, even if it's one or two, or even if it's your spouse or, whoever that is. And like Pat was saying, I guarantee you're going to have, you're going to be pleasantly surprised on how people show you up despite on what they were saying. Because a lot of people, or maybe not a lot of people, but some people, they're not gonna talk as much, and then they're gonna have an action that it's gonna surprise you and blow you out of the water that you didn't think was possible at all. And that kind of is what happened between my brother and I. Maybe we'll have him on the podcast and we'll talk about what's up. We'll have a real talk, homie, on siblings and how crazy it can get. But I definitely agree with you, Pat. Lower your expectations. When it comes to friends. And I'm having to do that with, certain people in my life right now. And not only will you be pleasantly surprised, you'll also stress a lot less. Because you'll notice, when you have that certain expectation and you see an action of theirs or something they say, and it doesn't sit right with you compared to what they say that they are to you, you're going to feel this tinge of, irritation or whatever it is, and it's going to build up, and you're going to have dreams about it, or it's just going to wear down on you. And man, you don't need that in your life.
Yeah.
Things are crazy enough as it is. You need to just relax and just, lower those expectations, and I guarantee you'll live life a little bit easier.
Yeah, and I do want to clarify is what I meant by lowering your expectation is not to have zero expectations for a person, not to not to keep extremely low expectations. It just means your standards are too high. If you find yourself getting pissed off, you find yourself getting stressed out over people failing you all the time, then you need to step up and you need to do the work because nobody can do you like you. And you need to lower your standards because if your standards are too high, then you become a tyrant to your own society. And you become this person that's just always constantly stressed out, always pissed off at these people because they're not performing up to your level of expectations. But if you set it low, and it doesn't mean if you're a construction worker, set the workload low. No. Everything's got to be profitable. But people are going to fail you. And you are going to fail them. So if everybody adopts this mentality of just, hey, grace, that's absolutely what grace is. God gave us grace because he lowered his expectations on humans, man. He knew we were flawed. He created us, and look at us. We're still fighting each other. We're getting stressed out and wearing masks and freaking out over information we don't even know, over a invisible virus that has a 99.95% survival rate. Well, I mean, you think we're any better than when he created us? I don't really think so. I just think we have cooler toys, and
not by any means.
Yeah, we're still a flawed species, and we always will be. But now we're making it worse on ourselves. So during this stressful pandemic, whatever you're going through, just bring down your standards just a little, and I promise you'll be a little happier. Happiness is everything.
I agree, and honestly, I think that's a good way to end this episode. I mean, That's such a great thing. And like you're saying, if you learn your expectations, the way that you're going to be experiencing people's life and the supermarket and life right now during this COVID crisis, pandemic, whatever, it's not going to just be COVID. You need to realize that COVID at some point is going to be gone. And there's going to be a new pandemic or a new emergency or a new disaster that's going to have your attention. And you need to realize that if you keep that, that the high expectations, that you're going to be let down on so many levels.
100%.
And those levels are going to build to the point where you're just not going to know what to do. You're going to have stress. Your anxiety is going to go up. Your mental health is not going to be as healthy as it was before. So just lower it just a little bit, Just relax. Have one less thing to stress about.
Yeah, I think it's at an all-time high right now of you need to stay composed out there because everyone's freaking out, you don't have to. You don't have to follow that suit. Negativity is going to always be attached to negativity. Misery loves company, and we all know this. But happiness overrides all. Love overrides all. And so you just need to lead by example and be out there and stay composed. I'm telling you, it's going to take you a lot farther than a pill. It's going to take you a lot farther than a mask. Stay composed.
I agree. Happiness is key right now, especially in all this craziness. I think that is a great way to not only end Real Talk Homie, because I believe I had mine with the
you sure
parents
did.
cover their mask.
Yeah, you sure did. We got to it a little earlier.
Because that let me pissed off a little bit. But
that was good.
That's a good way. And that's a good way to end the segment and maybe the episode. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. So for the listener out there, anything you guys want us to talk about, if we want to hear your story too, feel free to reach out to us with our email. Feel free to reach out to us on our Instagram page. And even reach out to me and Micah on our personal pages if you have us as a friend on social media. We'd love to hear from you. Love to hear your feedback. Love to hear your story. And sooner or later, here in a few more episodes, we're just getting our feet wet, but we're going to start having guests on. If you're interested in that, please email us. It costs about $500. Pay it to Patrick Madsen. No, I'm just kidding. But if you do want to,
it's 500, and then we do an actual virtual fee, so you need to pay an extra 50 on top of
and
that.
And there's interest that goes with it. No,
stuff.
I'm just no. We really just want to hear from you.
Flights are not included.
Oh yeah, that's right. No, always not included. No, but yeah, we do want to hear from you. So let us know, and then any feedback is absolutely appreciated. And if you don't like what me and Micah have to say, we don't really care because we're going to stay with it. But we are not above learning. And that's one thing we want to
exactly
absolutely make clear is that we're not above learning. We research so many things, I should say. And yeah, so we love you guys. Thank you for the support. Episode 2 already in the bag, and I'm super stoked.
Yeah, man. I'm again, like I've said in the first episode, I am super stoked and happy that you are joining me on this crazy endeavor that we're working on. This podcast, The Guilty Party. Like Pat was saying, if you got anything that you want to send us, whether it's a question or you want us to clarify, or if you want to have an argument, man,
bring it.
We'll talk about stuff. I'm not going to be yelling at you, but I will put you in your place if that's what it comes to. I'm just kidding. But at the same time, we're looking forward to doing episode 3 here in the next week. If there's something that you guys want us to talk about, or maybe if there's something we've talked about that these 2 episodes that you want us to clarify on, or maybe do a whole new segment or an episode. I know I've gotten a couple questions on doing a whole episode on mental health as well as conspiracies, which
shout out to Trevor.
No strangers to. Yes.
Thank you,
Trevor,
thank you for your story. That was great.
I love that. I loved it. Anyway, we're coming close on the 2-hour mark. Patrick, it's been a pleasure talking with you as always, and we will talk and argue and discuss things in episode number 3.
You best believe it. Sounds
all
good,
right,
man.
you guys have a good one. If there's anything you guys want to talk about, anyone, just let us know, and we are signing off.
Much love to you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.